Hey everyone, today I'll be making a Flask app tutorial of how to build a simple Flask app and then how to launch this app on Cloud Run, which is a tool used in Google Cloud for launching cloud applications. Enjoy watching. Before we start anything, I created this file which is called Simple Flask Tutorial, where we're going to have the Flask app. First thing we do is we open up the terminal and we download something called virtual environment. We type pip install virtual env. Now because I already downloaded it, it's not going to download again. But what this virtual environment going to help us do is that when we finish building our Flask app and we want to upload it to Cloud Run on Google Cloud, we're going to have to also upload the packages we use. For example, if you use pandas, numpy, you're going to have to upload these packages in the serverless machine on Google Cloud with you. And so the best thing you do is you make a virtual environment inside your machine, you download the dependencies, which are the packages you used, you build your Flask app, and then you upload everything together to Cloud Run with the dependencies inside the virtual machine. Now, how do we initiate this virtual machine? We're just going to type virtual env space, and then the name of the machine that we want. We're just going to call it env as well. We click enter. And then you see, now we have this file that contains the virtual environment. Now keep in mind, if you're on Windows, these commands might be a little bit different, but they're easy to find, just Google them. Now after we created this virtual machine, we have to activate it. So when we install anything, it's going to be inside this machine. How do we do that? We just type source, and then the name of the virtual environment, followed by /bin /activate. Now we click enter. Now we see here the virtual environment now has been activated. I'm going to put the activation code for Windows as well on the screen. Now we make our first Python file, which we're going to call app.py. This is where we're going to have the Flask application. First thing we do, we import Flask. We say from Flask import Flask with a capital F. Now because we haven't downloaded Flask in this virtual environment, we don't have it. So how do we download it? We just click pip install Flask. Now we have the framework ready to be used. So first thing you're going to do, you're going to type app equal to Flask, and inside this bracket we're going to type __ name __. So before anything else, I'm just going to code the boilerplate for a Flask app, and then we're going to see how we can build a function on a different Flask scripts, and then we add it to this app. So now this code just refers the Flask app to this file, this Python script file. Now we're just going to type app.route brackets, and inside we're going to put the route for our Flask application. The route is basically just a part of an endpoint. So now take this example. This is the domain for Google website, and then we have this route that takes us to these parameters that we import. So here we have this as the domain for Google, and then we have the search route. So you have the slash and then the search route. And then you have a question mark, and after the question mark, you're going to insert the parameters you want. So here we're inserting this text. So this is what we're doing in our Flask app as well. So I can just leave it as a slash, or I can add something, for example, function. But we're just going to leave it empty. Then we're going to define our function. So we're going to say diff function1, let's call it. And then it's just going to return hello world, let's say. Now to run this app, we're just going to type if __name __ is equal to main. So basically what this does is that when we run this Python script, it will be ran as the main script. And so we're saying if this file that we already initiated here is being run as the main script. Then we're gonna run the Flask app. So we're gonna say app.run. We're gonna set debug mode equal to true. So if there is an error in our Flask app, it'll show us where the error is. And we're just gonna set the port to 8080. So before we run the Flask app, I strongly recommend you guys to download this extension, which is called Live Server. The reason why you need to download this extension is because when you run the Flask app and you want to adjust something about it, you don't have to rerun it every time. Once you save the file, it will update automatically. So now we're just going to press Ctrl S or Command S if you're on Mac to save the Python file. Now that you've saved the Python file, we're just going to run the app now. We're going to say python app.py. And now we have this URL with 8080 as our port. Now if we click on it, you're going to see the hello world that we have. Now I just want to show you how the debugging mode works. So I'm just going to replace the hello world with a number. I'm just going to say something like a is equal to 1, return a. Now Flask app usually does not return an integer. It doesn't return any number. So it's not going to work. So now I save the file again, and then I'm on python app.py. And now when I open the port, this is the debugging mode. It shows you where the problem is. So it says here the view function did not return a valid response because we're returning an integer. So now I'm going to make a simple function that takes a number and multiply it by 2 to show you how you can build a function on a Flask app and use it. So I'm not going to make the function here. I'm going to make it on a different Python file. Let's just call it times2.py. Now it's always a good practice to always make your functions on a different Python script, not on the Flask app, because sometimes your functions can be very lengthy, and so if you put everything in one Python script, it's going to look very ugly. It's going to be very hard to read through it. So always make your functions, regardless of their number, on a different Python script. So I'm just going to come here. We're going to define this function. Let's call it times2 as well. We're just going to take an a, and then we're going to say that b is equal to a times 2, and we're going to return b. And now what we're going to do, we're going to import this function to our main Flask app. How do we do that? We say from times2, which is this Python script, import times2, which is the function. They have the same name. Now we can use this function here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to request the user to insert something through the URL. We're going to say a is equal to request, but first we're going to have to import request, which is one of the classes inside the Flask framework. So we're going to say request.args.get. Let's call it number. And then we can set the type as int. Now we're going to say b is equal to, and then we're going to use the function we built together, which is times2. We're going to insert a, and the output will be in b. But when we return b, we're going to say string b, because as we know, Flask app does not return a number. Now we save the Python script again, and then refresh here. Now the error is different. It says that unsupported apparent types, none type, because we haven't inserted anything. So what we're gonna have to do is we come here to our endpoint, and then we type our route, which is just a slash, it's nothing else. And then we type number, which is the parameter that we're going to enter, this parameter right here. So now that we type number, we're gonna just put in any value, let's say 5, and then click enter. Oh, it's not working because I forgot to add a question mark here. So usually after you wrote, you have to add a question mark, so you insert your parameters. And we click enter. So 5 multiplied by 2 is 10. So this is how you can make a simple Flask application. How you initiate your app, and then how you can import a function from a different file. In the next video, I will show you how you can take this simple Flask application and deploy it on Cloud Run, which is a tool that's on Google Cloud. I made this application very simple so that you can understand how Flask app really works. You don't have to worry about the complexity of whatever function we're building. However, if you refer to my GitHub repository that I'm going to leave the link for, you can see other examples of more complicated Flask apps. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will continue with you guys in the next video.